Thank you for coming along. We've had a bit of a chat before we started, but now I'm going to introduce you to people overseas who don't know Christine. She started life in the little town of Blackpool on the west coast of the South Island, where her father was a coal miner. Her childhood was very challenging, to say the least. At 25, she found herself on a benefit with two small boys. From beneficiary to temporary clerk in the Department of Social Welfare, against all odds, she went on to have a glittering career, achieving many firsts in the public sector. She became the CEO of Work and Income in New Zealand in 1998, only to see this career take a death-defying crash in 1999. Her story at that time is that she says it's not only shocking but a travesty, and one that made her for a long time the most hated woman in New Zealand. Despite nationwide controversy regarding her short skirts and big earrings, Christine won the Best Dressed Woman in New Zealand in 2001 and was runner-up in 2006. She has gone on to rebuild her life and her career, which includes radio, television, as well as online video and online commentary. She has been the CEO of several organizations and the director of the Transformational Leadership Company in partnership with her son, Matthew. Christine has also had a career in local government and is currently a fourth-term councillor of Taupo District Council. She has served on Waitemata District Health Board for 3 terms and Lakes District Health Board for 2 terms. She's had a very successful career as a public speaker for the last 20 years. In addition to that, she's a leading business advisor for The Engine, which is an Auckland-based firm, and also she's at Legend Transformational Leadership Company, specializing in transformational leadership, recruitment and retention. Christine is married to Kim Macintyre, and together they share 5 children and 8 grandchildren. Now, for the New Zealanders that know her, you know the big earrings, you know the short skirts, but what about the real story? We're recording it now. Survival against the odds doesn't even begin to describe this journey. Christine Rankin is a moving story about courage, leadership, and life's hard lessons, but above all, about thriving after destruction. Now, we had a little chat before we started recording, and what I really want, Christine, and I think that warmed us up, is your advice about leadership for women and life lessons. And I started by asking you if you think a strong woman is born or made.
And I really believe it's a bit of both. And if I look at my own journey, I can't quite describe why things happen to me or understand why things happen. But my childhood was horrendous, really full of violence and, oh my goodness, everything negative you can think of. And I had 3 siblings who reacted totally differently than I did. And I had resilience, and I didn't even know the meaning of the word for a long, long time. But, you know, our house could be a horror house on any day, and there were days that everything was calm. Not many, but some. And I saw horrendous violence inflicted on others, not just me. But every day I would wake up and think today was going to be a better day, and today I was going to do some things I loved. And that very rarely happened. School was really difficult for me. The only thing I liked about it was having people to talk to, because I'm very chatty. So I do think there was that resilience, and I didn't even know it was there. But I think then you learn and grow, and that learning just keeps on going, I assume, until you take your last breath, because every situation is different, but you learn the core components that make things work. Yes, I do believe that happens over a period of time.
So you probably started off with some courage and resilience, and you saw the difference between you and your siblings. And I think when we were chatting, you said that you always seem to have optimism.
Yes, and I would get an energy from somewhere within. like when I was very, very unconfident, I would get up to say something and I'd be absolutely terrified. You know how your knees shake and your hands shake long before you get control of this and start to love public speaking. But I'd go to say something, even in a group, and I would be so frightened, and from somewhere inside me would come something I don't have a word for that would just make me want to say it. I knew I had to say it. And sometimes when I said things which no one else would say, there would be absolute silence in a room because they were shocked that I would say it. But afterwards, you get a lot of feedback.
Mm.
And that, I think, keeps encouraging what you do.
Yeah, so you had this inner resilience that you didn't understand yet, that you didn't know about, that sort of helped you. And
Yes.
then as you went along, you had the courage to step up and speak, but then you were getting feedback. Did that feed the courage?
Oh, yes, absolutely. And I came to understand feedback has been the core of my leadership style. So, my leadership style is quite unusual, and I'm currently the chief executive of hospice in Taupo. And look, it's a small hospice, but I understand how different I must be to anyone they've had before. I'm very open. I tell them everything about me when I'm sick. I tell them I'm sick. I tell them everything I can about themselves. I give them feedback all the time. And I've done it through my entire leadership journey. I don't just do it at work. I do it at home, and I do it in the street, and I do it if I get great service somewhere. I never miss an opportunity to tell someone if they look fantastic, if what they said has really inspired me or made me feel emotional. I never miss an opportunity. And that is the core of my leadership style. I feed people all the time with what they're good at and what they should be proud of. And I lead organizations with love and compassion. And I know that that is a very unusual way to lead, but I also give people negative feedback too. You cannot keep telling people the good things and never allow them to fix the bad things, because all of us have bad habits and processes that don't work well with our other good habits.
So you're a strong leader. You
I
seem to
am.
have resilience,
Yes.
but you lead with strength and compassion.
Absolutely. And I hate to say love because people will go, oh, I really love my people. And that doesn't mean I can't be hard on them. I can. But I really care about them. I care about them individually and I care about them collectively. And I think when you are afraid to do that, because I find that giving part of yourself to your people is what connects them to you. And we would do anything for each other. And I think people pop into my mind now that that's absolutely true about in my daily
Yeah,
work.
I was going to ask you about that. Do you think the fact that you love your people,
Yeah.
that actually they connect with that actually does make a difference?
Look, I absolutely do. When I was the chief executive of Work and Income, I had 6,000 staff, and I did not do the job like an ordinary chief executive. I went to my front line 2 days a week, which the government that hated me was infuriated by. They told me to sit at my desk and do my job, which of course I defied. Doing my job was I'd come from the front line. I knew how tough it was at the front line. I would go out for those 2 days. I would sit with them at their desks. I heard all about their families, whether their husband was very sick or their child had run away. I never forgot those things. I'd go back the next time and I'd sit at their desk again to find out how that was. We talked about what they were there for. I was there to inspire them and to connect with them. And I would tell you that 5,500 people in that department would have followed me into war. And I really believe that. And that was one of the things that was hated about my leadership. The Prime Minister at the time said I had a cult leadership style and that my people would do anything I asked them, and she thought it was dangerous. And I thought, oh my God, how can you not understand the power of that kind of leadership? Yes, you can use it negatively, and you can look at some of the terrible leaders in history who were transformational leaders, because that's my style, who led people into disgraceful actions that the world still talks about. But when it's used for good, and you can't not use it because it can be used negatively, when it's used for good, it is the most wonderful, empowering things for every individual who works with you and for you and everybody around you. And look, for your family, because you don't just run You don't just run a business like this, you run your life like this.
Oh my goodness, I'm really inspired by what you've just told me. It really connects with me. And I think it's what separates you, brings you above and separate to other people. Do you think, what's the question? Do you think there's not enough of that? Or do you think there's a problem with leadership? And I'm mostly interested in women. I mean, women are listening to you, and what's happening here is you're not afraid to love. You're not afraid to care, and you're not afraid to connect. And so that's your message, isn't it, to women in leadership?
Absolutely.
So
look, Frances, we have something that men don't have in that capacity to love. And it's not that they don't love, it's a whole different situation for them to lead the way I do. First of all, it can be misinterpreted, but the way you do it, it really can't be. But someone could use it in that way. But men are also not encouraged to share their emotions like that. Where I do, I'm very open about myself personally. So my people are involved with me just as I am involved with them. And, you know, as I say to you, it's not just people who work for me, but I think love is the core of it. And if anyone can give this example, it's we women. It truly is. And we can do it in a way that really empowers others. I truly believe that in work and income, right through my Department of Social Welfare career as it developed, I gave love to everybody that was around me, including my beneficiaries. We dramatically changed that organisation so that instead of them being the enemy, they were
clients.
treated as going too far. But from the moment they walked in the door, our job was to change their lives. That's what I conditioned my people to do. Get them work, support them in every way to support that family. If we had to get their car fixed, if we had to get them new tyres, much better to spend money on that than on a benefit that locks them into poverty and no hope. So we did things very, very differently. And one government loved it and called me the epitome of a public servant, and the other Prime Minister called me the devil in a dress.
Now, I'm getting two messages from this. The first message is, as women, don't be frightened to connect with your staff and your clients and give the love. But the other message I'm getting is that the way that you looked at the problem or the service that you were giving was not, this is a negative thing and we've got to deal with it and we've got to, you know, look at the money we're spending. You were looking at the beneficiaries as being your clients.
Absolutely, and that's what they were called. They were no longer allowed to call them bennies or beneficiaries as we did. They were actually our customers, we called them, and people hated that. That was debated on the radio. I remember when we were going through it, how dare they? You know, they're just beneficiaries. Well, if you want that attitude, you're never going to help them change their lives, are you? And you're never going to empower them. So I know that I, along with that team and the person who recruited me, who was really the first, and that was a man, George Hickton, who was one of New Zealand's greatest transformational leaders, and I was his right hand, and I got the job after he left. But he also empowered my courage because he would just let me do anything. I remember when I fired my first person, which I'd never done in the public service, and I sent him a note with the recommendation, and he wrote, "Approved, thank you, Blondie." He'd written on the bottom of it. Oh, yeah, this was the public service, and I'm thinking, what's happening here? This is astonishing. But you know, it was all the people around me. But I know that my particular style has an effect that is very positive. It's not negative. And look, you'll never get everybody to be part of things. But I would say where I work at the moment, I've got 99% of them.
Now, Christine, I want you to think about what the way you lead and what else you do, because I'd like, the women listening to you are going to get tips and inspiration from your life, what you've achieved, the hardships you've gone through. Can you look at any other things that you do in leadership that could be helpful?
All of my organisations have been vision driven. George Hickton actually taught me about vision and how a vision statement, both in your personal life and in every business, is really important. And this isn't a paragraph. This is 2 sentences that supposed to make the hair on the back of your neck stand up. So you're headed for something really big. And when I'm speaking, I talk about Coca-Cola's vision. If I'd worked at Coca-Cola, I would have been excited to go to work every day. And their vision was really simple, which was to put a bottle of Coke within reach of every hand in the world. Oh, that still gives me goosebumps. How great is that? And in their advertising, they had a battered fridge in a desert with an old tribesman on a stick, and the door was open and it was full of Coca-Cola. Tell me why that excites me, but it really does. And it made me excited about having visions that were like that. And in Work and Income, we had a vision to become the best in the world. Now, we were the worst government department in the country, and they were going to privatise the process of paying benefits. And we had this vision that we were going to become the best in the delivery of income support in the world. It took us 2 years, and we absolutely were. We pulled down walls. Every office was completely open plan. Those customers were the centre of everything we did. We dressed properly. We supported them. We looked after them after they got a job to ensure they stayed in it. Everyone was on a high all the time. And we had the greatest success that any beneficiary organisation in the world had. And I went all over the world talking about it, and people came from all over the world to see what we'd done. Vision is powerful. Vision in your own life. You should have a vision statement for where you're headed in the next couple of years. And it needs to be very real, not something fluffy. And then underneath that, you need a mission, which is how you're going to get there. And ours was to provide a fast and accurate service. And they used to wait 29 working days to get a benefit. We took it to 24 hours. So we drove it and we made the vision live. And at Hospice at the moment, we have a vision about offering the most unique service in the world. And every week we look at what we're doing, and sometimes they're the tiniest little things. You know, one of my nurses, her patient was cold, and all she had in her home was a fire. And I came in one day and I saw my nurse trying to light a fire at work, and I said to her, "What are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, I've got to learn how to light a fire," which I taught her how to do. She said, "I've got a patient and the only heating in their home is a fire, and I'm going to go every morning and light her fire before I do." That was contributing to our vision. You know, every little thing. Can you imagine someone who's looking after somebody who'll go every day to their house and light a fire because there is no other warmth in that house? You know, I wanted to cry when she did it, because I'm thinking, you're living what we've created here. And there are loads of examples I've got now. The tiniest little things they do make that unique and special service that we provide, and our patients love us, and their families are so grateful. And we're not doing just the basics anymore. I send them out and tell them to meet every need they find. So if someone's cold, we'll buy heaters and electric blankets and socks and dressing gowns and jammies. And if they're hungry, we take food to their houses. This is way beyond what we're supposed to do. But at the end of the day, it's nothing, but it's everything. And I've watched it work over and over and over. So a vision is really powerful in what I do. I never run an organisation without a very powerful vision, and I spend week after week connecting my people back to the vision.
Well, what I'm getting also from you is I'm getting a couple of things now. I'm getting this massive enthusiasm that's making me feel enthusiastic. And I think that's obviously having an effect on the people around you. But the other thing I'm getting is a really can-do attitude. Just get in there, can do, and don't be limited. Don't be, because of the service you're doing at the moment, the hospice, you're giving your staff permission to be practical, be bold and practical, and do what's needed. So what other things do you think, this is women in general and women in leadership, what else do you think has made you so successful? I mean, you've got me enthusiastic now.
I do think the connection with your people, I just can't emphasize and re-emphasize how important that is. Look, I watch people be so badly treated. I have people who work for me whose partners work in other organizations, and they'll come and tell you what happens. And Francis, we don't understand leadership in New Zealand. I do believe they understand leadership in America. I went to Stanford University and I never wanted to go to bed. You know, it was only a course of a few months, but it was the highlight. You know, I've got school cert, for goodness sake, 3 school cert subjects. That doesn't mean I'm done, just means I couldn't cope with the school system. But I went to Stanford and it was just a joy in my life. And I do believe Americans lead in my way because they're much more, I don't mean all of them, but there's a lot more of it in America. And I love experiencing it. I went to teach for Anderson's Consulting in Chicago at their training facility. And it was like being with like-minded souls. You know, you go on a course and all of you are the same. They had exactly positive reinforcement, hit the stuff that's bad, really encourage the stuff that's good. And I know that as an individual, like you say, you're inspired by my energy and enthusiasm, that has been a gift and I've developed that gift. I do believe, and I don't know if it's appropriate to say now, Francis, but I'm not traditionally spiritual, but my belief is that you come here for a reason and you've got an agreed pattern and you're going to deliver that. And somewhere it was given to me, this enthusiasm and I suppose the power to love and care about people, and I use it all the time. It was such a gift, and if it inspires other people to do that, but I know it comes from my soul, I suppose. So
Yeah,
it's not traditional, but I look at other people and I can see the journey they're on, and I think that's what it's all about on this earth.
I agree with you. I think we all have some sort of inside purpose, don't we?
Yep.
And I think if you're on your purpose, if you're on your purpose and doing what you're here to do, then you're going to be most successful. You're going to affect most people and get the best results.
Absolutely.
So,
And it's just a shame that we don't seem to be ready yet in our society in New Zealand to accept how precious leadership is. You know, I look at our current Prime Minister and, you know, by the time people look at this, who knows what year it will be, whether they look at it in the future and who'll be there. But I think he's doing a magnificent job behind the scenes because he's been a chief executive. He's not appealing on the surface, and so we're crucifying him, and that is just appalling behaviour. We've got to recognise what's great about people and make the most of that. Not everyone's going to fit the box as we see it, and not everyone's going to do it our way, but you've got to take whatever you've got and make the most of it and find a way to fill the gaps that are there. But we don't understand leadership, and so we're just not doing it in many places.
you've just said the thing that I think of is that look at what your charges have got and look at their gifts and what they're good at, and you encourage that. I'm just sort of thinking, what else can we I know what I should ask you.
Yes.
Intense public criticism, because you've been through a lot. When you were the CEO of WINS and then you took the government to court, not so much about the court process, but you were criticised publicly. How did you deal with that?
Oh, Francis, I don't even know if people in New Zealand understand what was done to me. It would never happen now. It was bullying of the most extraordinary degree, and the people who did it should be utterly ashamed. I don't know whether they are, but most people would have taken their lives. They could never have sustained what I sustained. And, you know, part of that was because I'd built up such an enormous amount of support in that department. And I don't know if I said it in this recording, but I really believe that 5.5 of those 6,000 people would have followed me into war. I really do believe that, because the connection was so incredibly strong, and they were mortified. They tried to save me. They did everything to save me. But if people understand that I was spat on, I had bullets with my name carved in them. Every single day I led the news. Every single day I led the news. I was talked about on Talkback. I was the #1 subject, and they would tear me to pieces. What happened at that time was my staff protected me. So I didn't read the newspaper, I didn't watch television, I didn't listen to talkback, because if I had, it would have, you couldn't have survived. You couldn't have survived.
Now, just to interrupt, Christine, for the listener, especially the overseas listener, you took the government to court, which is unheard of.
I think I'm the only New Zealander that ever has, and I wouldn't recommend it. I lost everything I had, and I lost my court case. But strangely enough, I won the court of public opinion. And I will always polarize people because I speak my mind, I am courageous, and if something needs to be said, like I fight child abuse in New Zealand and it's become a racial issue, and I say it is not, and we cannot hide behind that, and I will challenge as no one else will. They all go, oh my God, you can't do that. But my life's been threatened many, many, many times. I had my own police protection squad. They taught me what to watch for every day. They were only a button press away at work because they truly thought someone was going to kill me. And if there'd been social media, Francis, I don't know if I would have survived, because there wasn't 26 years ago. But it's really strange. Since then, the people who follow me have just grown and grown and grown. I can feel this enormous group of people behind me wherever I go and whatever I do. So it's quite incredible. There are still people who believe the things they said about me at the time. And honestly, it wasn't true. It was fabricated. That was the travesty of it. My success had been phenomenal. As I went up the ranks, and I got 6 promotions in 5 years when I first started, which was unheard of for a woman in New Zealand at the time. They sent me to every place that was failing, and every time I took it from the bottom to the top. And then I got the chief executive's role, and how dare I look glamorous? How dare I wear big earrings that they said there was something evil about it? And you've got no idea the comments that men would call me into rooms, senior men. The Prime Minister's chief executive of her office, and he was interviewing me one day, and he said he got a glimpse of my breast and he was so distressed he went home and talked to his wife about it, and he openly admitted that in court. The behaviour was appalling, and when I survived it, I thought, right, I'm not going away, I'm going to continue to do what I've done. And I've done that. I've rebuilt my life, and I've rebuilt my career, and I've proved over and over and over again how good I am. And it's not, that sounds terrible to say that, but I know I'm good. I came from nothing and nowhere, and I have succeeded against the odds over and over again. And I'm not going to deny that. I'm proud of it. And I have multi-thousands of New Zealanders who support me, who stop me on the street every day, who tell me if it wasn't for me, the country wouldn't have the discussions and debates it has. I can't believe I've got to this point, but I have, and I hope my children are proud of it because they've been through hell.
Christine, I've got a couple of thoughts about this. One of them is that I think that you've probably broken the glass, if you like, opened the door, and you've been the forerunner of helping women to just be themselves and not have to dress for men, if you like, right? Absolutely. To be themselves. And that's really important. You've shattered it now, and you've allowed women to dress for themselves rather than for some sort of man image or whatever. But the other thing is that you were just starting to tell us is that how do you recover from being up there, being attacked and destroyed, and then, getting on with your life and recovering?
I've paid a price, Francis. I think after my job finished, coming to terms with the fact that this 24-year amazing experience was over, and that I'd been tortured by the country, and it was still difficult for a long, long time for me to walk along the footpath anywhere. I would get myself ready. I think I probably had there was definitely a mental effect, and I don't think I was me for a couple of years. I think it took a long time to recover, and my health, as you know, is delicate and dicey, and I'm going through a really tough time at the moment, and I know that a big part of that is definitely what happened. You can't live with that level of stress without it taking effect on your body. And I remember a GP said to me at the time, if this doesn't stop soon, something big is going to happen to you. And it did. Okay. So there's that to manage as well. But yes, you pay a price. You definitely pay a price.
So your warning. So here we are sort of talking about leadership and encouraging women and all that. But the warning is you've got to look after your health. You've got to listen to your body, and stress does have an effect.
Oh, and Francis, we think we can do everything. You know, we want to have babies, for example, and we have them and then we're always at work. And, you know, the pressures of work are huge. And we talk about family life and you have to balance it up. Well, women have enormous pressures and often they can't. And one of the things I look back on, and I did miss parts of it. I have a very close and loving relationship with my boys, but I missed things in their lives, and I always dedicated to the weekend to them, and I was always home by 5 o'clock at night. I still missed things with them. And when you get older, you understand that your family, whether you have children or not, whoever the ones are around you, are the most important things in the world. Nothing, no career success, nothing is more important than them. And I truly believe that, whether it's your partner or whether I've got an extended family with Kim's children who I absolutely love. I adore all of my grandchildren. That I'm really disappointed that I missed some of those things and that I didn't know. But if you are aware, you can make it work, but you are not infallible. Things will go wrong if you push. Oh, how many times have you told me, Francis, you burn out? If you don't stop, you burn out. And you do, and it will catch you.
Have you been burnt out, and how have you recovered from it?
I've been burnt out several times. I had 6 months off work at one stage before I became infamous. I had 6 months off work when my autoimmune condition, because I've got about 5 of them, when it first kicked in. And, you know, they didn't know what was wrong with me. They literally said, go home and get on with your life. When I was covered in pulsating lumps all over my body, they thought it was in my head. It wasn't. It turned out to be autoimmune over time. But yes, your health will suffer. It definitely will. I have not seen anybody in which, if you drive yourself to the absolute edge, and men do it all the time. And how many times have I been burnt out? Maybe 5 or 6. I'm going through a really tough period at the time, but I don't think it's burnout. I think it's my age and all the things catching up on me. And Francis, I was very arrogant. 6 months ago, I was saying, I'm 72. I've got 2 big jobs. I've got more energy than most 30-year-olds I know, and I've been whacked. I've been really whacked. I haven't got that energy.
But I'm listening to you, and I want people to hear this. You've been burnt out several times.
Yeah,
I've been burnt out a couple of times. It's really important for people to be aware of that. When you push yourself, you can get burnt out. What do you do to stop yourself getting burnt out, to support yourself?
Yeah, I think for me, I'm really lucky, and we know I haven't had a great experience in my life with relationships, but I've been married to Kimmy for 18 years, and he is my rock. He is just the most incredible partner anybody could have, and that's been a very stabilizing effect in my life in the last 18 years. So I think it's really important that you've got someone beside you. I think you've got to really take the time to enjoy your family. So if you've got kids and grandkids, immerse yourself in it. I get so immersed with those grandchildren. I think I'm their best playmate. And I've done that from the very beginning. And the eldest one is 24. I've lived in their lives. And that has been a huge joy to me. I also, Francis, and you know this because you're my doctor, but I take every supplement that can help me to keep my body healthy. I do what you tell me to do, and I do it properly. And that's why I say the current situation has caught up with me, not because I truly haven't been very loyal to that. It's just a culmination of everything over a period of time. But you need to look at the best medical help you can get, and you need to open your mind to it not being inside a box of prescribed medicine. I don't know how else to describe. Yeah. There are lots of other things to help women, and always to have someone to talk to. For me, I've got a group, and in a group, it's very small. You're one of them, Francis, but my husband is really important to that. I can tell him anything and talk to him about anything, and I have several other supports like that. Use it, do it.
Yeah.
I don't rely on things like alcohol or occasional drink here and there, but I don't I just try and enjoy the things that are around me and dedicate my time to that when it's available. And I make sure there's a lot of time for that.
I've got a couple of more things to ask you. Why do some people grow stronger while others fade?
I think it's because they don't actually take on board what's available to them. You know, the advice that I get on my health, for example, because my health is everything to being able to do this thing that is so important to me and I know that I'm here to do. And I'm really scared of that ending. I must admit, I've currently been facing mortality and I don't like it because I don't feel ready for anything to go wrong yet. But I think it's because they don't take on board the help that is there. There is a lot of help on the edges of what would be described as traditional medicine. It shouldn't be on the edge at all. It should be an integral part, and it's had a very powerful impact on my life. And I do it, I listen to it, I believe it, and I go seeking it. So I'm very, very interested. If you recommend something to me, Frances, I always read everything about it and I look at it and I trust you. So I do it and I do exactly what you've told me. So many people look at it and go, oh, it's just too hard. I can't swallow 10 pills a day. Well, you know what? If you're going to keep your body going to do what you love doing, you've got to do whatever you can.
You're putting your health first, because without your health, you can't do anything.
Without your health, you've got nothing. And mine is shaky at the best of times. So I have done everything I can to support that. Everything.
Can you think of, I'm going to ask you one last question, but before I do, can you think of anything else that you think would inspire women? Anything else that you've experienced or any tips you've got for them?
Well, one thing I would like to say to women, and I talk about it often when I speak to groups, the heresy of the sisterhood is a crime. And we talk about supporting each other and, oh, you must put women up, and jealousy's a bitch, as I often say, and the things women do behind each other's back, Frances, is just awful. We're jealous of how someone looks or how they can speak publicly or how successful they are. They might be a threat to us somehow, and we are mean machines. We are mean, mean machines. If we truly did what we say we do, how much more empowered would we all be? I don't play the game at all. If I don't like somebody and I don't approve of what they're doing, I have a little word with them. I don't go and tell everybody else about it. And that is a big failure for women at the moment. And I don't know if it's worldwide, but it's alive and well in New Zealand.
Okay. So when people think about you in the future, what would you like them to remember most about you?
My courage. Even if they don't agree with what I have to say, I hope they admire the fact that I never gave in, and I will continue doing it in the face of danger, really, because that's sometimes how it feels to me. And to see that love is really important in everything we do, and it sounds so twee and so, oh, what a lot of rubbish. No, it's really true. You change people's lives by loving and caring about them, and it can be for 5 minutes. You can stop and have a chat to someone on the street and say something to them that you have no idea affects the rest of their week or maybe their lives. We have to take every opportunity, and I hope people remember that I did that. But most important for me is that my children and grandchildren, when I die, are proud of me and not embarrassed, because there are times I will have embarrassed them terribly, especially when I was the talk of the nation. My boys were young, in their late teens and early 20s, and had to listen to people all over the country who didn't know they were connected to me say the most appalling things about a mother that they loved and adored. So courage, I suppose, is the number one, but I want my kids and grandchildren to be really proud. My granddaughter is writing a book about me at the moment, and she's determined it's going to be made into something else. So we will see.
So basically, it's courage and love.
Yep. Yep.
It's been great talking with you. It's been inspirational, and I hope maybe we can do it again sometime.
Anytime, Frances. Do anything for you.
I'm going to stop the recording now and thank everyone for listening. Until the next time.